Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Stidham and I am a first year nursing student at the University of Cincinnati. Today I am going to be discussing cycling, which is a lab experience that I participated in my systematic review over cycling and the research that I have done for it. So, overall, before I attended or did any research on cycling, and just from prior background knowledge, I just defined cycling as the activity of riding a bicycle. And this could be a stationary bicycle, it could be a mobile one that you ride around your neighborhood or at the park or anything like that, or if you go to the gym and you want to ride a bike, the stationary ones. So, that's just like the activity of sitting on a chair and moving your legs, adding resistance, and I knew it was very good for your muscle, like building your muscle in your legs, and it was good for your lungs and your cardiovascular system just because overall, any type of physical activity, including resistance and aerobic training, is very good for those things. Um, so, after doing a lot of research on this and even attending a lot of cycling classes over a 3-week period, I learned a lot about really the full impact that cycling has on your body. Cycling is a very common activity. I think a lot of people, most people have done it at one point or another in their life. You know, when you grow up and you're a kid, the first thing you want to do is learn how to ride a bike without the training wheels, and you just want to go hang out with friends. And it's an easy way to get around without having your parents drive you places, and it is just overall a pretty fun activity. So first I'm going to be discussing my popular literature that I chose to read for this lab experience and this systematic review. So in my popular literature, it discussed like very broad things that cycling does for somebody. It discusses its influence on your physical health and on your mental health, and how it releases serotonin and endorphins in your brain. And then it discusses things that it can prevent, like heart disease, high blood pressure, even cancer. It discusses that. And it just gives some people who just genuinely or generally want to know a little bit more about cycling just a quick overview of more reasons why cycling can be good for you. Um, and I think these reasons are pretty straightforward to the point. Luckily, cycling has been around for a really long time, so finding research and data on it is not very hard or challenging compared to other things that may be hard to look into. And I think cycling has always been proven scientifically to be good for you. There's really very little things that cycling can do to harm you unless you have a certain condition that it might affect. But getting into my scientific literature, this certain literature that I read was a systematic review, and they conducted 13 studies with 66 men and 106 women. And the cool thing about this review is that they took all these people who had different health issues. Some had type 2 or type 1 diabetes, some had high blood pressure, some were obese, and they even compared the males and the females, and how cycling impacted those people. And they decided to look into oxygen consumption, lipid profiles, body composition, and different things like that, and just to see overall how cycling impacted those things. And it was really interesting to read because in my lab portfolio, I discussed oxygen consumption and how I was impacted by that with my own experience. The cool thing with cycling, since it's so low impact and it's not hard on your joints or anything like that, it is super straightforward and you can go as hard or as easy as you would like whenever you are doing it. Uh, I felt very little soreness after I attended my first class, and I'm not one that likes to, or not likes to, I'm one that does not necessarily exercise as much as I should or like play a sport or go to the gym as often as I should. So even after my first cycling class, that was pretty challenging and definitely pushed me, and was a very, I wouldn't say hard, but pretty challenging class. I still felt fine. I felt more energized afterwards. My body felt like it was loose and moving, and I just overall felt really good. And I think that's something super important that is a factor of cycling. And something interesting that they found is that cycling is especially good for people with type 2 diabetes and their cardiovascular system, which is really neat. And cycling is a preventative activity, It is not something that necessarily cures things, unless you are wanting to lose weight or increase your stamina or things like that. But other than that, it cannot cure diabetes, high blood pressure, and things like that, but it can prevent them or even suppress them and make them a little bit more manageable if you do it the right way. So I think that's super, super neat. And it was really cool to see how these scientific subjects impacted me personally when I attended these cycling classes, because even going into a cycling class, not only physically but mentally, I'd be very overwhelmed and stressed and felt a lot on my shoulders from school or just outside factors or work or anything. And going into the class, I would be able to relieve all of that, and it could be the endorphins and the serotonin being released in my brain. But it also, my body just felt overall a lot better, and mentally, I was a lot more stable, and it was like a mind and body connection, which was really neat to experience. So, overall, cycling has a lot of background to it. It has been around for so, so long. People not only enjoy it for the physical and mental aspects of our bodies, but also for the environment. It is a good way to travel around and to improve your physical health, but also like avoid pollution and things. And my popular literature touched on that quite a bit. Um, so I think that's super, super neat. And I think cycling overall, scientifically and just from opinion, has proven to be very, very good for people. And it is a very nice activity to participate in. And I think everyone should be able to participate in it and just see how it impacts them, because it can improve things that people struggle with, like obesity or high blood pressure or heart diseases or anything. And yeah, so that was my experience, and that's the research that I read. And thank you guys for watching.